is we would, I guess I'll start off and I'll just kind of give the story in about a 10-minute version.
All right.
And then Hal, maybe you can introduce
David?
David.
All right, sure.
And, just who he is and what he's done. And,
All right.
And then David, you can
Talk about anything.
talk about your process, and then you can unveil. And my dad, passed down this gun and this powder horn and some documents and the story of Captain John Lovewell. And when I was about 15 years old, Judy and Jan and I went back to Maine, and we visited Lovewell Pond, which was the site of this famous battle. But I really had never, been that interested in it until we started building this house, and we were trying to come up with a theme for, some of the things that we were doing. And we started getting more interested in researching a little bit to find out who this guy really was. Turns out Captain Lovewell was just a farmer who lived in a county Dunstable. I think that's in New Hampshire. It's no longer called Dunstable, though it's something else. And he lived at a time when the French, who were on the eastern side of, down the Mississippi Valley and up in Canada, were arming the Indians. And the Indians were kidnapping and, attacking the colonists at the urging of the French. For many years, the Indians were very clever. They were very diplomatic, and they played off the English against the French and the French against the English. They were really good at it, and they organized themselves into something called the League of Six Nations. But about this time, they had really been a problem from the colony's point of view. So the governor of Massachusetts put a bounty on Indian scalps. And Lovewell formed an expedition in 1724 in the fall. And he led 2 expeditions with snowshoes through the snow and, just incredible conditions. And it was successful. They did come back with some scalps, and they were celebrated in Boston with a big parade, and they met with the governor and had dinner. And the governor turns out to be the ancestor of Warren Fox, but anyway, that's another story. So his third expedition, he had about 30, actually started out with over 50 colonists, and they went out in May, and they were trying to find this one chief and his tribe of Abenaki Indians. This guy's name was Paugus. And they tracked him, and they saw signs and everything, and finally they came to this lake called Saco Lake, which is now called Lovewell Pond or Lovewell Lake. And they saw a lone Indian hunting on the west side of the lake. And so they dropped their packs, which was very uncharacteristic of Lovewell, because he had a reputation as being a very careful, he was really good at what he did and a good leader. And so he dropped his packs, and they snuck up on this lone Indian who was hunting. The Indian came out of the woods there, and they shot him and killed him, and he shot Lovewell, and Lovewell took a hit in the stomach. And so he didn't know it was a fatal wound at the time, so they went back to their packs. In the meantime, Paugus came up the east side of the lake, moving south, and he came to where the packs were, and he had 80 braves with him, and they were coming back from a war party. And they realized what they had, so they set an ambush. And John Buxton, who did the painting in there, went to the actual site to figure out how this might have happened. And he surmised that they probably were in this creek bed, hiding. And that's how we constructed the painting. We got the foliage all right and everything, all the details. And so they were attacked. And they were backed up against the lake, and they fought all day long. They were either behind a tree stump or a big rock or something, but they had some kind of cover. And about a third of the colonists were killed or wounded. And the Indians kept charging. There were 80 of them. And then in the evening, Lovewell died during the day. And then in the evening, the Indians had a shaman come, and he was a medicine man, and he was kind of trying to fire him up again. And the lieutenant who had taken over from Lovewell took his sergeant, and they snuck away from the rock and got a shot off and killed the medicine man, and it spooked the Indians, and they left. And so the colonists split off in all different directions. 5 guys went this way. One guy fell in. He he thought he was mortally wounded, or at least he said he was, and he fell into a canoe and drifted away. And then he woke up and he was okay, and he went ashore and back home. And you kind of wonder about that story. And then Paugus himself, he went down to he was out by the lake, and he was surprised by this guy named Chamberlain, and they both loaded as fast as they could, and Chamberlain got a shot off faster and killed Paugus. So this was a very famous battle at the time. There were ballads written about it. Longfellow wrote a poem. There was a very famous sermon. And the funny thing about the sermon is the pastor didn't want the world to know that this battle had taken place on a Sunday. So he changed the date of it to the next day. And it was a big deal at the time because it led to about 25 years of peace. And there's a great book called The Scalp Hunters' Ambush at Lovewell's Pond. And it was written only about 10, 12 years ago by a professor back east. And I liked it because I thought it was very even-handed. It treated the Indians, you know, gave them credit for the good and bad things they did, and the same with the colonists. So I'm not so much celebrating this as I am acknowledging a really interesting historic thing that happened. And I'm kind of intrigued by the fact that this was an ancestor of mine. So without further ado, let me introduce Hal Sleer, who will introduce our artist.
Well, first of all, John, thank you for allowing us to be involved in this project. It's absolutely fantastic. David's been an artist with my gallery in Tahoe City for 29 years now. And we've seen him develop an international recognition. He's collected all around the world. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce David, and he's going to entertain you.
No. John has been after, you're saying from the camera, don't block my shot.
He's also an actor.
You can edit it out.
John's been after me for a couple of years. This idea has been boiling in his brain to have this bronze done for quite a while. And this last November, he finally decided to go ahead and do it. And so I started out, I had no idea what I was doing because I knew nothing about the Eastern clothing and stuff like that. And John Buxton, he put me in touch with him. And this gentleman that made the clothing back there, both helped me a lot in coming up with everything. I commissioned the gentleman to make the clothing, and the guy that made it, I can't think of his name right now.
I can't either, yeah.
Yeah, anyway, he made the Neil Redmond, I think.
It's inside the coat.
Yeah, Neil Redmond, I think his name is. Anyway, he made the outfit, and it took a couple of months for him to get to it, and I didn't get the outfit actually until February, or actually he didn't get it done until February, and I flew out to Baltimore and then drove about 120 miles to the east of Baltimore, west of Baltimore, to Neil Redmond's house, and I got lost. They had to come and guide me to the house because my GPS, they wouldn't even register the house. It was so off the track. But we had a great 2 days there, and I had John Buxton, who the clothing was made to fit, posed, because the clothing had to be made to fit properly. Back then, clothes fitted tighter because you couldn't walk to a store and buy a suit off the shelf because things had to all be made for you. And so I wanted to get it properly fitted and then have him pose in it. And that's what started me on the idea for this piece here. I changed gun positions halfway through the sculpting of it. And in actual time of sculpting on it, I bet I spent 3 months, but 8 months from the beginning to the end of the piece. And the day that I finished it was actually the anniversary of Captain Lovewell's death. And I didn't know that until I just happened to look it on the web and saw that day, that the day that I finished this just coincided with his death. So I don't know what that means. Get the soothsayers out, we don't know. But if you want to unveil it, let's do it.
All right. You help me with
Drum roll.
Drum roll.
Ta-da! Wow.
All right.
Well, I took his characteristics because there's no portrait of Captain Lovewell. And I took his characteristics and made him a little bit younger. But changed things, just certain things. But I kept the mouth, I kept the nose, and I tried to keep the eyes. And I tried to do as faithful as I could, and I'll probably get my butt kicked when I get up to, you know, wherever he is right now. And he'll say, "What the heck did you do to me?" But this is a type of musket they would have had back then. And looking at the barrel on yours, it looks like it could be.
Yeah.
But it was a dog lock musket. In other words, I can't show you because I sculpted the lock, but I ended up putting it under his arm, so it's gone. But it was called a club butt Fowler, and it's because of the size of the butt of the rifle. And these things were 6 feet long. They were really big, and they dated back to the late 1600s, but they were still using them at the time of Captain Lovewell. And I had done this originally in oak leaves, and I called John Buxton, and he says, "Not oak leaves, it was a pine forest." So I went outside and grabbed some pine needles and soaked them in melted clay and threw them on here. And then redid some of the leaves to, you know, the type of leaves of trees that would be around that area.
You can turn a little bit, maybe.
Can you turn
Oh,
it
yes,
around?
right.
It's not turnstile.
But,
Oh, what's work?
Guards the door.
I explained the coat too. You see
Look
the
at
buttons
the
back
back.
here?
Yeah.
They would undo that, and if they were carrying a sword, the sword would fit right through the jacket.
Wow.
And that's the way it is on this coat too.
Wow.
These things are made practical, and the reason the shape of the hat back then was because let me see your musket. Okay. They would stand at attention like this, and if they had a wide-brimmed hat, it would knock the hat off. And so they designed the hats to fit the type of military position they would go into. In fact, they would actually turn the hat just a little bit to the left. But I didn't do that because I thought it looked better the way it was. I think that hat should come back in style.
Oh, that's right.
That is totally you.
It is. It really is. The whole outfit.
All right, well, now let me get another shot with you with your
Muslin shirt there, the sculptor.
Hold your gun.
Hold your gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretend to shoot me too.
All right, there we go. You can't get the
Wow.
sculpture though.
Move over a little bit so we get the sculpture there.
Part of it's just there. There's the relationship.
Wow.
Okay. That's
Oh,
great.
good.
All right, well, thank you for putting up with this, and
Great.
please have some
John Lovewell.
champagne or whatever.
Oh, Captain John.
There you go.
Here's, oh, right.
Well, here's to the ancestors that helped build this country, by the way.
Absolutely.